March 18, 2022. The Cleveland Browns give Deshaun Watson $230 million. Every single dollar fully guaranteed. The largest guaranteed contract in NFL history. NFL owners panic because Watson's agent just shattered a ceiling that owners spent decades building. 1 week later, Commissioner Roger Goodell and all 32 owners hold a secret meeting. And according to a 61-page arbitration ruling, hidden from the public for 6 months, the NFL encouraged every team to stop offering fully guaranteed contracts. 3 elite quarterbacks were negotiating deals at that exact moment: Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson. None of them got fully guaranteed contracts. The NFL Players Association filed a collusion grievance. The case went to arbitration, and in January 2025, the arbitrator confirmed the NFL encouraged collusion, but dismissed the case anyway. Both the NFL and the union agreed to keep the ruling secret. A confidentiality agreement. Nobody talks. Except on June 24, 2025, journalist Pablo Torre obtained the full document and published it. Secret meetings, leaked text messages, a union president calling his own player a wuss, and a cover-up involving billionaire owners and the organization that's supposed to protect players. This is the NFL's and Deshaun Watson scandal. To understand this scandal, you need to understand one thing. NFL contracts are famous for being non-guaranteed. A player signs a 4-year, $100 million deal. Headlines say 4 years, $100 million. But the fine print? Maybe only $30 million is guaranteed. If the player gets injured, cut. If performance drops, cut. The player doesn't get the full contract. NBA contracts, fully guaranteed. MLB contracts, fully guaranteed. NFL, you're lucky if half your deal is guaranteed. But Deshaun Watson's agent changed that. March 18, 2022. 5 years, $230 million. Every dollar guaranteed. Watson had leverage. 26 years old. 3-time Pro Bowler. Multiple teams wanted him. The Browns were desperate. They hadn't had a franchise quarterback since 1999. They made an offer Watson couldn't refuse. Not just the money, the structure. Every dollar guaranteed. When the deal was announced, other agents started calling it the Watson Standard. Former Jets GM Mike Tannenbaum called it a watershed moment. Former Eagles president Joe Banner said, "How do you tell your star quarterback you can't give him a fully guaranteed contract if that guy can get it?" Owners knew what was coming. Young star quarterbacks like Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow were next in line. If Watson got fully guaranteed, they'd want it too. So according to the arbitration ruling, NFL owners decided to do something about it. 1 week after Watson's contract, the NFL held its annual league meeting, March 27-30th, 2022. All 32 owners attended, and according to system arbitrator Christopher Droney's ruling, quote, "The NFL Management Council, with the blessing of the Commissioner, encouraged the 32-member clubs of the NFL to reduce guarantees in future contracts." That's not speculation. That's the official ruling from an independent arbitrator. The NFL held a meeting. They encouraged teams to stop offering guaranteed money. And 3 quarterbacks negotiating at that exact moment: Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson. None got fully guaranteed deals. Russell Wilson signed with Denver. 5 years, $245 million. Only $165 million guaranteed, 67%. Kyler Murray signed with Arizona. 5 years, $230.5 million. Only $160 million guaranteed, 69%. Lamar Jackson didn't sign until March 2023. 5 years, $260 million. $185 million guaranteed, 71%. All huge contracts, but none fully guaranteed. The Watson Standard died before it could spread. October 2022. The NFL Players Association files a collusion grievance against the NFL. The union alleged that NFL teams and the league office violated Article 17 of the collective bargaining agreement. Article 17 prohibits collusion. The NFLPA's argument was simple. Deshaun Watson got fully guaranteed in March 2022. Immediately after, the NFL held a meeting encouraging teams to stop offering guarantees. And suddenly, 3-star quarterbacks all got partial guarantees. That's not coincidence. That's coordination. The NFL denied everything. They argued teams made independent decisions. No collusion. No conspiracy. The case went to arbitration. System arbitrator Christopher Droney held hearings in July and August 2024. The witness list was staggering. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell testified. 8 NFL owners testified. Russell Wilson testified. Lamar Jackson testified. High-profile agents testified. NFLPA leaders testified, all under oath. And what emerged was damning. DeMaurice Smith, then NFLPA executive director, testified that Patriots owner Robert Kraft told him a league executive asked Kraft to tell fellow owners not to negotiate fully guaranteed contracts. If true, that's direct evidence of collusion. But when Goodell and Kraft testified, both denied it happened that way. So it became he said, he said. The arbitrator did find evidence of the March 2022 owners' meeting. Multiple owners testified. Documents confirmed it. The NFL Management Council admitted they encouraged teams to reduce guarantees. So why didn't the NFLPA win? Because the arbitrator ruled that encouragement isn't the same as agreement. Yes, the NFL told teams to stop offering guarantees. But the NFLPA couldn't prove teams actually agreed to coordinate. Each team could argue they made their own independent decision. Maybe they just happened to all decide the same thing. Coincidence. On January 14th, 2025, arbitrator Droney issued his ruling. He wrote, "While the NFL Management Council encouraged the 32-member clubs to reduce guarantees at the March 2022 meeting, the clubs did not join in such a collusive agreement." Translation. Yes, the NFL told teams to stop paying players. But no, we can't prove teams coordinated. The case was dismissed. The NFL won. But then something strange happened. The NFLPA didn't publicize the loss. They didn't hold press conferences. They didn't rally their members. Instead, they made a confidentiality agreement with the NFL. The 61-page ruling would remain sealed. Neither side would discuss it publicly. For 5 months, the ruling stayed secret. Until June 24, 2025, when Pablo Torre obtained the document and published it. When Pablo Torre published the 61-page ruling, the sports world expected to focus on Roger Goodell and the owners. But as reporters dug into the document, they found something else: text messages. Between J.C. Tretter, then president of the NFL Players Association, and DeMaurice Smith, then executive director. Text sent on July 8, 2024, right in the middle of the arbitration process. And in those texts, J.C. Tretter absolutely destroyed Russell Wilson. Tretter called Wilson a wuss. He used another expletive Pablo Torre wouldn't repeat publicly. And Tretter wrote, "Instead of being the guy that made guaranteed contracts the norm, he's the guy that ruined it for everyone." The president of the Players Union, whose job is to advocate for all players, was blaming Russell Wilson for not getting a fully guaranteed contract. Not blaming the owners, not blaming the NFL, blaming the player. And the owner's legal team loved it, because suddenly they had evidence that even the union's own leadership didn't think this was collusion. If Tretter was blaming Wilson instead of the owners, doesn't that suggest the union knew it wasn't collusion? As Pablo Torre explained, J.C. Tretter was blaming the player instead of the owners, and the owners were like, "This feels like a very helpful bit of evidence for what we're trying to prove," and it worked. The arbitrator cited multiple pieces of evidence. The text didn't help the union's case. So why was Tretter blaming Wilson? When Seattle traded Wilson to Denver in March 2022, Wilson's agent negotiated a 5-year, $245 million extension with $165 million guaranteed. A huge deal, but not fully guaranteed. According to testimony, Wilson never demanded full guarantees. He considered his deal effectively fully guaranteed because of how it was structured. Except in March 2024, the Broncos released Wilson after just 2 seasons, before his $37 million salary became fully guaranteed. Wilson collected $122.79 million from Denver, but he left $51 million on his old Seahawks contract. Net gain? Only $71.79 million over 2 years. If his contract had been fully guaranteed like Watson's, the Broncos couldn't have cut him. He'd have gotten the full $245 million. Instead, he signed a 1-year deal with Pittsburgh for $1.21 million. Then, a 1-year deal with the Giants for $10.5 million. Russell Wilson, a Super Bowl champion and future Hall of Famer, is now bouncing between teams on short-term deals. So Tretter's frustration makes sense. Wilson had leverage. He didn't use it. But Tretter wasn't a fan tweeting opinions. He was the union president. His job was to support players, to blame the system, not individuals. Instead, he blamed Wilson. And when those texts came out in arbitration, Tretter wanted them suppressed. He didn't want them public, but they did come out, and the NFL used them to win. When Pablo Torre published the ruling on June 24, 2025, the biggest question wasn't, did the NFL collude? The ruling answered that. Yes, they encouraged collusion. No, they couldn't prove coordination. The biggest question was, why did both sides hide this? The NFL's motivation is obvious. The ruling confirmed they held a meeting encouraging teams to suppress salaries. That's horrible optics. Better to keep it secret. But the NFLPA? Why would the players' union agree to hide a ruling that exposed NFL collusion? Pablo Torre speculated it was internal politics. DeMaurice Smith testified that Robert Kraft told him about a league executive asking owners to coordinate. And Smith admitted he never told J.C. Tretter about that conversation. Tretter was the union president, and Smith kept critical information from him. Then there are Tretter's texts calling Wilson a wuss. Those embarrassed the union, made it look like leadership was blaming players instead of fighting for them. If the ruling became public, players would ask questions. Why was Tretter attacking Wilson instead of the owners? Why did Smith hide the Kraft conversation? Is the NFLPA actually fighting for us? Those are dangerous questions for a union. Unions survive on trust. If members don't trust leadership, the union falls apart. So the NFLPA had a choice: publicize the ruling and deal with internal fallout, or make a deal with the NFL to keep it quiet. They chose quiet. On January 14, 2025, both sides signed a confidentiality agreement. The ruling would not be made public. Neither side would comment. And for 5 months, it worked. Players had no idea the case existed. Agents had no idea their clients might have lost money. The media had no idea the NFL encouraged collusion until Pablo Torre got the document. Torre is a veteran sports journalist, former ESPN talent. He has sources throughout the NFL, and somebody leaked him the full ruling. On June 24, 2025, Torre and Mike Florio published the document. The reaction was immediate. Sports media outlets jumped on the story: CBS Sports, Yahoo Sports, ESPN, everyone. The NFL and NFLPA both declined to comment, citing the confidentiality agreement. But the damage was done. Players started asking questions. Why didn't the union tell us? Why did our president call Russell Wilson a wuss? Why did we agree to keep this secret? Agents started asking questions. Is this still happening? Are my clients losing money? And legal experts started analyzing. Could players file individual lawsuits? Could the NFLPA refile? Could the Department of Justice investigate? All became live possibilities once the ruling went public, which is exactly why both sides wanted it buried. Let's talk about what Russell Wilson actually lost. When Denver signed Wilson in March 2022, they gave him 5 years, $245 million. $165 million guaranteed. That's a massive contract. But it wasn't structured like Deshaun Watson's deal. Wilson's guaranteed money was front-loaded. By the time the Broncos could cut him without massive penalties, most money would be paid. According to testimony, Wilson considered it effectively fully guaranteed. Except that's not how it worked. Wilson struggled in Denver. The offense never clicked. His deep ball accuracy declined. The Broncos missed the playoffs both seasons. In March 2024, Denver released Wilson. Just 2 years into a 5-year deal, Wilson had already collected $122.79 million. But he still had $51 million left on his old Seahawks contract that Denver absorbed. So his net gain from the new deal? Only $71.79 million over 2 years. If his contract had been fully guaranteed like Watson's, the Broncos couldn't have released him. They'd owe him the full $245 million. Wilson would have made an additional $122 million. That's the difference between partial guarantees and full guarantees. That's what Wilson lost by not demanding the Watson standard. And J.C. Tretter knew it. That's why Tretter called him a wuss. Because Wilson had leverage in March 2022 and didn't use it. But here's the uncomfortable truth. If Wilson had demanded full guarantees, would Denver have said yes? We'll never know. Because according to the arbitration ruling, the NFL had just encouraged all 32 teams to stop offering guarantees. Denver's front office attended that March 2022 owners meeting. They heard the NFL Management Council's presentation. They heard the encouragement. Would they have broken ranks and offered Wilson full guarantees anyway? Maybe. Maybe not. But the meeting created an environment where teams felt safe saying no. Where teams knew other franchises wouldn't offer guarantees either. Where teams could coordinate without technically coordinating. That's the genius of the NFL's approach. They didn't order teams to stop. They encouraged it. They created consensus. They made it socially acceptable. And when Wilson's agent came to the table, Denver had cover. We'd love to do a fully guaranteed deal, but the market doesn't support it anymore. Look at what other teams are doing. Wilson accepted $165 million guaranteed, a fortune by any measure, but not what he could have gotten if the Watson standard had survived. After Pittsburgh in 2024, Wilson signed with the New York Giants in March 2025. 1 year, $10.5 million. He's 36 years old now, still playing. Still wealthy, but not on the team that gave him a massive extension, and not getting the money he might have earned if the system hadn't been rigged. Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson lost money too. Not as dramatically as Wilson, but they got partial guarantees when they might have gotten full guarantees. The arbitrator dismissed the case. The NFL won. The money is gone, but the precedent remains. The NFL Players Association is the weakest union in major American sports. NBA players get 99% guaranteed contracts. MLB players get 100%. NHL players get mostly guaranteed deals. NFL players, lucky to get 50%. And when the NFLPA finally had a chance to fight back against owner coordination, they failed. Not just because they lost the case, because their own leadership undermined it. J.C. Tretter, attacking Russell Wilson in text messages, gave the NFL ammunition. DeMaurice Smith, hiding information from Tretter, created internal dysfunction. The union's decision to keep the ruling secret betrayed their members. This wasn't one mistake. This was systemic failure. The NFLPA faces structural problems. NFL careers are short. Average career length is 3.3 years. Players don't have time to build union solidarity. By the time a player understands the system, his career is over. NFL rosters are huge. 53 active players per team. 1,696 players total. That's twice the size of NBA rosters. 3 times MLB. Building consensus is harder, and NFL ownership is unified. 32 billionaires who meet regularly. who coordinate through the management council, who have Roger Goodell running interference. The players are fragmented. The owners are organized. That's why the owners win. But the 2025 collusion case revealed something worse. Even when the union had evidence, even when an arbitrator confirmed the NFL encouraged collusion, the union couldn't convert it into a victory, and then they hid the loss. That's not just weakness. That's betrayal. Players pay dues to the NFLPA. They expect representation. They expect transparency. They expect their union to fight for them. Instead, the union president attacked a player. The executive director hid information, and leadership made a secret deal with owners to bury the truth. For 5 months, players didn't know they'd lost a collusion case. They didn't know their contracts might be worth less because of owner coordination. They didn't know their own union helped cover it up. Pablo Torre's league changed that. Now players know. Now agents know. Now everyone knows. And the next time the NFLPA asks for support during CBA negotiations, players will remember. They'll remember their union hit a collusion case. They'll remember their president blamed a player instead of the owners. They'll remember that when given a choice between transparency and secrecy, their union chose secrecy. Trust, once broken, is hard to rebuild. The current NFLPA leadership, Lloyd Howell replaced DeMaurice Smith as executive director in 2023. J.C. Tretter left as president that same year. Inherited this mess, but they haven't fixed it. They haven't apologized. They haven't explained why the ruling was hidden. They've stayed silent, hoping the story fades, hoping players forget, and players will continue getting screwed. But players don't forget when they lose money. And agents don't forget when the system is rigged. The NFL will continue encouraging teams to limit guarantees. The union will continue being too weak to stop it. So what happens now? The ruling is public. The cover-up is exposed. The NFL confirmed they encourage teams to reduce guaranteed contracts. But legally, the NFL won. The case was dismissed. No penalties, no fines, no changes. Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, and Lamar Jackson don't get to renegotiate. They don't get the guaranteed money they lost. The money is gone, but the precedent remains. Every player and agent now knows the NFL will coordinate to suppress salaries. They'll hold meetings. They'll make suggestions. They'll encourage consistent negotiating positions. And as long as they can claim teams made independent decisions, they'll get away with it. The legal standard for proving collusion is incredibly high. You need evidence of an actual agreement, not just encouragement, an agreement. The NFLPA couldn't prove that. And realistically, they'll struggle to prove it in future cases too. Because NFL owners are smart. They're represented by the best lawyers. They know how to coordinate without leaving evidence. A wink at an owner's meeting. A suggestion from the management council. A shared understanding. That's enough to suppress salaries without crossing the legal line. So what's the solution? Some agents now advise clients to demand fully guaranteed contracts, regardless of market conditions. Force teams to say no explicitly. Create a paper trail. If enough players demand guarantees and enough teams refuse, maybe that builds a pattern. Maybe that's evidence for the next case. Other agents advise shorter contracts with more frequent renegotiations. If you can't get full guarantees, at least get back to the table faster. And some players simply accept reality. The NFL is a business run by billionaires. The billionaires coordinate. The union is weak. This is the system. But there's another angle. Federal antitrust law. The NFL has a limited antitrust exemption. But that exemption doesn't cover everything. And collusion to suppress salaries might violate the Sherman Antitrust Act. If the Department of Justice decided to investigate, they'd have subpoena power. They'd have access to every email, every text, every meeting note from March 2022. They'd be able to prove or disprove collusion in ways the NFLPA couldn't. But federal antitrust enforcement requires political will. And there's no indication the current administration is interested in investigating the NFL. So for now, nothing changes. The NFL will continue encouraging teams to limit guarantees. Teams will continue claiming independent decisions. Players will continue getting partially guaranteed contracts. And the NFLPA will continue losing credibility. Because at the end of the day, this scandal revealed something uncomfortable about the NFL's power structure. The owners coordinate. The league office supports them. The union is too weak or too compromised to fight effectively. And when the truth came out, both sides tried to hide it. That's not a one-time failure. That's systemic. Deshaun Watson, whose contract started this scandal, has been a disaster in Cleveland. Injured, ineffective. The Browns are paying him $46 million per year, and he barely plays. His contract is now considered one of the worst in NFL history. The owners who panicked about the Watson standard were probably right to panic. Fully guaranteed contracts for players who don't perform are financial disasters. But that's the risk of a free market. Sometimes you pay too much. Sometimes you make a bad deal. The NFL owners wanted to eliminate that risk. They wanted to coordinate. They wanted to suppress the market. And according to a 61-page ruling they tried to hide for 6 months, they did exactly that. The only question is, will they get away with it? The NFL collusion case is technically closed. The arbitrator ruled. The NFL won. The confidentiality agreement was signed. But the story isn't over. Because every time a star player negotiates a new contract, agents will remember March 2022. They'll remember the secret meeting. They'll remember the encouragement. And they'll wonder, is it happening again? The billionaire owners who coordinate behind closed doors. The union that's too weak to fight back. The system that's rigged against the players. That's not history. That's the NFL today. If you want to stay updated on the stories the sport world doesn't want you to know about, hit subscribe. Drop a comment. Should the NFLPA leadership be fired for hiding this case? What do you think? Thanks for watching. This is Foul Play.